Hey folks, this is Rhykker, bringing you a Diablo 3 patch 2.4 Demon Hunter build, currently on the PTR, that uses the Shadows Mantle set. Patch 2.4 brings a renewed Shadows Mantle set that allows Demon Hunters to be viable with melee weapons. Now what we're showing here is a build that I worked up, but I will note that this is recorded on the PTR, so everything is still subject to change. So do check back in the future for any potential changes or updates to this build. Let's start with an overview of the gear. You will need the full 6 pieces of the Shadows Mantle set. And what this does is make us deal a ton more damage with a melee weapon equipped. It makes Shadow Power gain the effect of every rune and last forever. And it makes Impale deal an additional 40,000% weapon damage to the first enemy it hits. This is an astounding single target DPS build. Where it obviously suffers is versus groups of enemies. But we'll discuss some ways that we can alleviate that. So apart from the Shadows Mantle set, we will want to use Carly's Point, because Impale will be our main attack skill, and we want to spam it as much as possible. And this weapon allows us to regain hatred when striking a target multiple times. Beyond that, we'll want the Chain of Shadows. That makes Vault cost no resource for 2 seconds after using Impale. We will virtually never run out of Vault. This is a super high mobility build. Next, we'll want the Wraps of Clarity. That gives us a bit more survivability. We will want the Spines of Seething Hatred. That turns Chakram into a generator. We're going to want Focus and Restraint. That's going to pump out some more damage. For our Amulet, we can go with an Eye of Etlich, ideally. I don't quite have one of those yet, but the special property of the Eye of Etlich is the damage reduction versus ranged attacks. We're a ranged character. We should never really be struck by melee attacks, so that should work out nicely. In our cube, we will want Dawn. That's a crossbow that looks like this, but this is a legacy version. The special property on the Dawn heavily reduces the cooldown of Rain of Vengeance. For our armor, we'll want the Visage of Goons. That's a really cool looking helm. It sort of looks like the Shadow's mask, but with horns coming out of it. And this makes Vengeance gain the effect of the Dark Heart rune, which we'll take a look at in just a bit. Then lastly, we'll want the Elusive Ring. That looks like this. And that will make us take reduced damage for 8 seconds after casting Vault. And we will be casting Vault every 8 seconds. We will have 100% uptime on this effect. We will also have 100% uptime on our Wraps of Clarity. And ideally, we'll try to get 100% uptime on our Focus and Restraint. And of course, that takes us to our skills. So we're selecting Chakram Boomerang because this is a lightning build. We'll explain why in just a moment. Chakram will serve as our generator. However, if you do not have the Spines of Seething Hatred, then you can alternatively go for Bolas Thunderball, in which case Imami's Duffel serves as a good quiver choice. Our main attack skill, Impale Ricochet, and the point of this is just to spread the damage to 2 nearby enemies. Impale normally only strikes 1 enemy, so we're doing our best to spread the damage around. Next, we'll want Vengeance Seethe. We're gonna try to gear towards 100% uptime on Vengeance. The reason we want Seethe is for that 10 hatred per second. We basically never want to run out of hatred. We want to be constantly spamming our Impale, and really only using Chakram to keep up the numerous buffs we've previously mentioned. As a nice side effect, it'll also generate hatred, but Vengeance Seethe is what will allow us to not have to rely on that for our hatred generation. As we previously said, our gear will give us Vengeance Darkheart. This basically doubles our toughness. Another reason we want permanent uptime on Vengeance, which also does 40% increased damage. In order to maintain 100% uptime on Vengeance, you'll want max cooldown reduction in your Paragon points, you'll want a diamond in your helm, and you'll want 2 to 3 pieces of gear with max cooldown reduction. I only have it on 2 pieces of gear, and I'm not perfectly rolled either, and I have maybe a second or 2 of downtime on Vengeance. During that period, you want to play a bit more defensively. Onto Shadow Power, the rune doesn't matter, all it will do is determine the color of your wings, so have fun picking that. Again, we're gaining the effect of every rune thanks to our items. This will give us some nice life per hit. It will slow nearby enemies, it gives us more damage reduction, and it makes us move a lot faster. Next, we'll want Vault Rattling Roll. Tumble has historically been the rune of choice for Vault, but since our vaults will always be free, it's completely unnecessary. Lastly, you have some choice here, but in the gameplay footage, you're seeing me use Companion Wolf Companion, and that's for that 30% damage buff on the active effect for 10 seconds, and you'll want to use that every time you engage an elite pack. Another option could be Caltrops Bait the Trap. You'll want to stand in your Caltrops to gain that 10% critical hit chance. And basically the difference here is that picking Caltrops means you don't have to be dependent on the cooldown of Companion. However, you are more dependent on positioning. Another option is Marked for Death Grim Reaper. That spreads out a bit of the damage. Again, this is a very powerful single target DPS build, and this skill will spread some of that damage to nearby enemies. As for the passives, we'll want Thrill of the Hunt. Apart from the crowd control, we really want Thrill of the Hunt so that we can use Cull the Weak, so that we do more damage against these slowed enemies. And of course, that will combine with our Bane of the Trapped gem. We'll want Awareness as that free revive, and we'll want Ambush. The other two gems we'll want to use are Zay's Stone of Vengeance. You ideally want to be positioning yourself pretty far away from enemies. The max damage buff you'll get is at 50 yards away, which equates to roughly half a screen. And finally, you'll want to use Taeguk. Since you'll be constantly spamming Impale, it is completely feasible to maintain 100% uptime on your Taeguk, which gives us more damage and toughness. Another thing that will help us spread the damage around is area damage. You'll want to max that out in your Paragon points, and then you'll want to get it on whatever pieces of gear you can. That's going to be your shoulders and your quiver. We won't go into further detail on the exact stats you want on every piece of gear, because we're still on the PTR and everything is still subject to change, but do check back in the future when this build is finalized and we can crank out those stats for you. But right now, what you're seeing in the gameplay is an unoptimized version of this build. I only have one ancient legendary item, and I'm still clearing a Grift 65. I haven't tried to push for higher, but I've seen similar Shadows Mantle builds hit around Grift 80 on the leaderboards. Now, one final note about the gameplay before we end things here. You'll notice that I am just hunting for elite packs. Because this build is mostly good at single target damage, stopping to kill every white monster just takes way too long. Infinite Vault allows you to easily just travel around, hunt for those elite packs, and then deal the big damage on them, and mostly focus on filling your progress bar with the purple orbs. That strategy may not be viable at higher greater rifts. I haven't tried it to find out, but I doubt that things will differ significantly. That wraps up this guide. Thanks for watching. Check out these other videos. Leave a comment letting me know whether you want to go with a melee or a ranged demon hunter in patch 2.4. Check out these other videos, and if you enjoyed this one, share it with friends, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders.